Hello, I'm Chris Lapadillos Stanstasiopoulos. This is Man Free World. Tech support's coming out on Tuesday to close that thing up. And today I want to reacting to this video, which reminded me about some stuff I looked up back in the early mid 2000s about this topic, and I thought it was a little odd, but it was kind of in line with what I already kind of researched. So let's get into it.
One thing that was kind of funny about my friendship with Tyler was that he was part of the space program. He's really integral into the space program, and he launches, these rockets and works with SpaceX and that type of thing. And what I found out, which he actually did not know, and I pointed it out to him, was that the whole thing was a ritual. The whole thing was ritualized. So they identified certain time periods astronomically when it would be beneficial to launch, and they also had the rockets had Roman gods on them. And they also had Latin, first century Latin, not medieval Latin. It wasn't Catholic Latin. It was basically imperialistic Latin. And everybody had to stay in their own space. Like there was a place where they had to stay. They wore the same clothes for every mission, and they ate the same food.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. Are you referring to a SpaceX launch? I missed that.
Yeah. Well, not all SpaceX launches, just certain of them with Tyler involved. And so when he would be involved launching these satellites into space, a lot of times they'd be with SpaceX because that's who they used.
I see.
So they would go, they've been doing this from, it looks like from the 1950s onward, they've been doing this ritual, and they would even have like a chaplain there. And, it was very, it was very ritualized. And so I noticed that, and I asked him about it, and I said, do you know that this is first century Latin that's written on these rockets? And he said, no, I didn't know that. He didn't even know it was Latin. And so we read them, I translated them all, and I said, this is that. And I said, who up there in space is going to be reading this? Like, why would you put that on there? That seems so strange. And he said, well, I imagine it's for them. And I said, okay, who are they? And so he just didn't say anything.
Fast forward the commercial for you guys. It's funny that it cut out right when I clicked back to it. It was cutting out.
Firstly, what did it say? And then also, does this mean that Elon Musk himself?
Wait.
So the two questions that occur is, firstly, what did it say? And then also, does this mean that Elon Musk himself is putting those messages there? Like Elon is a believer in ETs and so on? Or is it just one of the staff members?
No.
So I just want to break in there for a second. So, yeah, this whole thing is about her discovering, these things are this old Latin wording, and these launches seem to be very ritualized to appease some sort of being that's up there, and they're using this early form of Latin and very ritualized, very interesting. So this is I'm looking at this through the lens of the Law of One Raw Teachings. If you don't know what that is, you can go look that up. But the information that's contained in that is probably the closest to what I've come to see and putting all the information together for myself. So we are definitely in contact with some sort of extraterrestrial being. They are from Orion. They make it seem like they may be coming from Aldebaran, or Taurus, but they're from Orion. So let's listen to more.
No, this is way before Elon, so it has nothing to do with him.
So the NASA, if you don't know where NASA came from, it was L. Ron Hubbard and another rocket scientist. I can't remember the name, but you can look it up. There's the book called Love and Rockets about all the origin of NASA, and then of course they imported through Project Paperclip all the Nazi scientists from Germany to work on the public space program, and I believe also the secret space program, which we'll be getting into.
Company is just a company that does the launches to get the satellites up, but he has nothing to do with creating the satellites or of putting the Roman stuff on them. Nothing at all to do with that. That was definitely predates him. So what does it mean though?
What was written on it?
Yeah, so to me it looks like what people have called like exotheology or astrotheology. It's this.
Okay, so she's referring to this, which is the best book on the subject if you want to know and put all the cards on the table. Jordan Maxwell wrote this book, and this has been republished, and I guess it got some more information because they just republished it in 2023. I became aware of this in 1999 or so, of the astrotheology. So they're lining up the stars because it's part of this religion. So this is part of their religion, and They're really into star alignment and ritualized things for they what they consider like energy conduits and timing of things for the best outcome. I don't know. I don't fully understand this stuff. I know that they're super into it. The Orion group, reptilian or whatever the hell they are. Fifth, there seems to be a group, but it's mostly I guess reptilians, lizard people. Yeah, they're super into this. So
this kind of, well, I call it, it's not a specific religion, but it's a religiosity of people who are involved in the space program. And it's this,
isn't that odd that they're people involved in the space program are super into religion? You wouldn't think that'd be true. You think they're all like nerdy scientists, they just down to the 100th decimal place. But no, it's this religious stuff.
It's Roman. The United States kind of considers itself Roman. Look at our, architecture and that type of thing. We're like the new imperial place, right? And so I think that's what it has to do with. They're using the images of gods and goddesses from Rome. And what does the Latin say? Here's something for you to check out. It's they're called patches. And have you seen those patches? Okay, so
haha, we don't know, or haha, we know, but you don't.
Yeah, yeah. And so a lot of those are in Latin, and that's where you see, and a lot of those would be on the actual satellites. The images would be on the satellites, and then people.
So fair use, by the way. This is First Amendment. By the way, you can react to people's videos. But go give him a like and subscribe. I'm gonna give him a subscribe and a like for this, because he's doing pretty good work here. He doesn't actually. I don't think he fully understands what's going on. He understands, or he acts like he's not. But I'll help connect some dots for you.
People who were working the mission, they would get the patch.
And so the haha part, was that on the satellite, or that was just on the patch?
Usually you just have the god or goddess in an image like a dragon or something like that on the satellite with the Latin phrase that accompanies.
The haha thing is like, haha, we know what's going on. That stuff. That's the haha. It's like we put it in public. It's like, so one of the things about this group's religion is they have to actually tell you everything. They actually have to let you know everything that they're doing. They don't have to tell you why. They just have to tell you what they're doing, how they're doing it, but they don't tell you why. You have to kind of figure that out.
Accompanies it. And the Latin phrases are different for each launch.
And they don't care. As long as you go along with it, and after they told you, it's on you, buddy.
Okay,
let's go.
Phrase that accompanies it. And the Latin phrases are different for each launch.
You also mentioned there's a picture of that you were going to send to the audience at that time, because remember, I'm listening to the lecture, and you said, yeah, if anyone's interested, I'll email it to you. Can you email it to me so I can place it on screen right now? Not right now, sorry, when I'm editing this. I'll make a note to remind you of that. Is that okay?
Yeah, I could get it right now if you want.
The image is being displayed right now, so if you're listening to this on the audio platforms, then I recommend you click the YouTube link in the description.
Bad resolution on these, but you can see these other places. So they got some ancient Roman god. This is all in Roman script. This is an American thing. Probably U.S. military.
What you're seeing is the high quality capture. Unfortunate.
And right here, this is another one right here. Nuncom Auntie. It's like we can see in the dark or something like that. Wait, let me go translate it real quick. So Google says translates to never before, never again. Which is this means that it's kind of these are like some of the slogans of the Orion group. They're always going to be here. The tri-headed reptile god. Oh, I just lost power. Hold on. That was odd. I just lost power. Anyway, yeah, so never before, never again is part of their religion. Is that is like we've always been here, we've never not been here, and we'll always be here. That was kind of like their thing. They're like, this is a three-headed. Never not been here, always be here. We will always be here and never not be here. So we've never not been here, always gonna be here. We'll never not be here. So that's sort of like we're in total control at all times. It's like kind of overplay. It's like it's a reptilians. They're like reptile, like lower. They're like lower level core brain survival hierarchy ritual. That's their stuff. That's what they're
the source images are fairly low.
And you can like look at like it says odorant dumb mutant. Okay, what does that one go here? Let's do it. Odorant, because you can go like odorant dumb mutant. Okay. Oh, internet's down. All right. Anyway, that's not good. Let's go pause that for a second. Yeah, like this is another one, just over the top. Hate Fate. This is one of the AF 10 cap special applications. Hate Fate. So they always want to know everything. They must be in control at all times. Total dominated control, and they got to be so over the top with it. They got to put it in Roman. It's just so ridiculous because it does seem that these beings do prefer that time and age for some reason. I don't know. They seem to be pretty obsessed with anything that has an elite structure that allows them to feel like they're in top and have total decadence, total opulence, all that stuff that the reptiles are super into, materialism and control and power, and you have to do what I do and I can do whatever I want anytime. It's like, okay, whatever. It's STS, standard STS material behaviors. Victory through intelligence. Okay, all right. That's more Roman stuff.
You also referred, or not you, someone referred to the president as a short timer. Okay, what does that mean?
Yeah. So, and I'd heard this from not just Tyler, but a lot of the people who were part of the program, that presidents are short timers in the sense that there must be a program that's not a short time program, but a long time program.
Right. This is the shadow government, this managerial class. This is the what the FDR replaced the government with, is this group of people. They're technical owners. A lot of them have patriotic ties, but not that's becoming less and less of a thing. I think the old guard's dying out, so they're just allegiant to this group they're in power and they want to stay in power. That's the FDR. They're like, they have a nod, they do a nod to the Constitution, like, yes, we understand it exists, but they don't care about that stuff. That stuff stopped at World War II. So before that, even maybe 1865, when you're allowed to voluntarily join, but you can't voluntarily leave. Oh, okay, whatever, man.
Program, and therefore the presidents come and go, and therefore they're not given the information. Think of Tyler. Tyler's been doing this since he was at least 20 years old, and now he's in his 60s. I mean, he's a long timer, and so he has a lot of information. And the presidents don't have all that information. They're only given the information that they need to know.
I know that
as all compartmentalized systems are, that's how this whole thing's put together and kept operational, because if everybody knew the things inside, we wouldn't have you living in a world like this. Unlikely if they had if they just let the stuff about the free energy systems that are available, and they could be deployed, but it might be turned into a weapon against us somehow, and we won't be in charge anymore. That's STS, pure service to self, guys. That's the rep.
So we've mentioned Tyler's pseudonym plenty, and I don't think everyone here knows who Tyler is or what the story is around Tyler. So do you mind quickly just outlining that so that people can rewatch, say, oh, okay, now that makes sense. I didn't give the context to
Sure. Okay. So I wrote this book. I called it American Cosmic in reference to the Russian cosmists, because to me, Russian Cosmists is a great book for any of our listeners, by, I think it's Henry Young, and it's about the belief systems of the people who started the Russian space program. And
similar to the belief systems that started the American one, because it's part of the same space program. Hello.
So when I started American Cosmic and I met Tyler, he had a very similar belief system. And
wow, shocker! What a shock! I can't believe they would have the same religion. This is how naive we all are. This is how bamboozled we are. We think they're separate nations, they're separate groups, and they're all fighting against it. No. It's all one group. The elite, who have in league with these off-world people who manage a technocratic class that manage the hoi polloi.
And Tyler was this person who actually reached out to me, and he was part of a secret program. Now they're known not to be secret, and he had clearances and that sort of thing. And he worked for almost every space shuttle launch. Okay, he's a mission controller, and he was a very fascinating person. I kind of kept him at a distance for about 1.5 years before I actually met him in person. And then he took me and Gary Nolan to New Mexico to an alleged crash site for UFOs, because he told me that UFOs from the 1940s. He told me that I didn't believe in UFOs, and he said, you only believe in them as kind of like imaginary things. He said, what if I showed you evidence that? And so this was where I was like automatically suspicious. I was like, wow, this is crazy, but I'll go. Because it's still evidence, it's still data, even if it's disinformation, it's still data. So anyway, so that's who Tyler is. Tyler's this fascinating space program person.
Does the mission controller work for NASA and involved in the group that's involved with keeping this going? And he obviously knows about the others.
Do you believe that the government believes
silly
that they understand what's going on behind the UFO phenomenon?
No.
Oh, that's what they'll tell you. Oh, but they know. Oh, yeah. Who do you think they're making deals with all this technology? Come on now. Stop.
So they
You have to laugh about that because you know that's not true.
realize that they don't know what's going on, or you think that they think
Well, okay, the government doesn't know, but there are people in the programs that are in cahoots with these private corporations that are just part of these family bloodlines that go back centuries that are involved. And they do know about the aliens because they're buddies, they're pals, they're good friends. Come on.
that they have a handle on it?
They're not going to tell you, lady. Why would they tell you? You don't need to know. But they do tell people. And it is, you can look around and kind of make some deductions and see what's going on. But, you know, a lot of people don't want to make that jump because you can't prove it with 23 publicly cross-referenced government reports. Man, you're never going to figure it out if you listen to those guys.
I think that there's probably a number of, you know how in the United States we have Democrats and Republicans and things like that. I think that the government is pretty much, the space program is like that. There's different factions within it, and some of them.
Yes, there's factions, of course. It's a reptilian organization. Of course it's going to have factions in it. It's also very human, but the reptilians have trained us like, this is the way to behave. It's like, okay, it is a way to get things done, but it is freaking cutthroat as fuck, and they have a tendency to end up fighting against each other too much. Over what? Us. That's right. They're fighting over us. Okay, awesome. So you really like slaves. Okay, got it.
Are tasked with trying to figure this out, and some of them think they know what it is about, and some of them know, well, we don't know what this is about. So that's how I think it really is. It's compartmentalized, and that's why I use a lot of references.
The reason why it's compartmentalized is because it's a slave operation, and if these people knew how much they're being used, they wouldn't do it. Come on, lady.
To this movie and book called Fight.
You gotta think it's awesome. They gotta think it's the best thing ever. They gotta think it's the, oh my god, we're involved with this secret thing in space, people, and they might travel there one day, and blah blah blah. Stop.
Club.
It's a freaking slave operation. That's all it is. On multiple levels, multiple density, multiple world slave operation. That's the big secret. Oh, like the same shit everywhere. It's the same stuff. It's just we don't want to look at it because what would it mean? It would mean that our leaders aren't what they seem, and we might have to go take care of things ourselves and not listen to them. And that's scary.
And it's basically about this person. Well, probably your audience knows, but that's what it looks like. So before it was the Invisible College, where people worked together who were scientists and they were secret and they're trying to figure out the stuff under the cover of secrecy.
And what do you think they're now? Oh, it's all public now. Yeah, everything's out in the open. Yeah, we already figured it all out. You can go ahead and go. Don't have to pay attention anymore. We're still stuck on elementary particles. We can't figure it out now. We have no idea how it works. It's just we just don't know.
But then it morphed into, I think in the late 80s and early 90s, it morphed into Fight Club, where people didn't even tell each other what.
That's typical reptilian freaking shit, man. What are you talking about? Yeah, of course, because there's money and power. You think people are going to fight each other when there's money and power involved? That's up for grabs? In a reptilian organization, you don't think that's going to be attracting? When there's money, power, and slaves involved, that you're going to get those people that are a little bit motivated to get shit done? Oh, no. That would never be a thing. No.
That they knew in order to keep the secrets.
Do you believe that we're dealing
I really think it's this public school education that I got and a heavy dose of that is really hard to shake, because this is a dog-eat-dog world, especially at the upper levels as you go up. Total anarchy. And now the anarchist stuff is starting to come seep into the higher levels, and they're just going for broke now. I'm not sure what's going on, but there seems to be a target of 2030 for they gotta have their shit wrapped up tight by then. Whoever that's gonna be in the slave, whoever's like still down for I'll just be a slave, do whatever you tell me, I don't care. Jab up, I don't give a get on ships, I don't give a shit. Yeah. That group, I think they got time till 2030 to get them all corralled. And there's something that's gonna happen. And the law of one goes into this thing. It doesn't say when or when. It could be 100 years from now, they say. But I have a feeling that maybe 2031, 2032, if they don't have it all buttoned up by then, they're about to get evicted.
with multiple phenomenon that have different explanations rather than a single one?
Yeah, definitely.
So why do you think that?
because they look very different. So orbs look different than Tic Tacs, which I don't.
Yes, there's different ships, different levels, different densities, different beings coming through. They all have different different types of conveyances. They all present differently. Okay, and there's ships from here. We back reverse engineered stuff that's drones, and stuff that's like people are making look like one thing, but it's actually something else. Yeah, all the above. It's not just one thing. Stop. It's all the above. It's always been all the above. This what? Well, what is it? Is it this? Is it that? It's all those things, man.
Don't even know if they are extraterrestrial. And there are things.
Yeah, because they're from here. Some of the beings that have created those things, they're also in cahoots with this group, are also from here. They consider themselves from here. They're like the humanoid dinosaurs. No, and they're in cahoots with the reptilians because they're kind of the same people. No, okay.
Is that like I could see from Catholic history from like 1400, 1500 that look like John Mack's abductions, and
yeah, because it's the same group, same people. We're gonna get into that in a second.
You can say, wow, that looks exactly like it could come out of John Mack's book. I think it's called Abduction, actually.
Yeah, there's been agreements. I'm gonna go into the agreements so we can get a little quick, get up to speed.
Human encounters with aliens. So yeah, those are different. I mean, I think they're different. I could be wrong, but they look different.
Have you seen this video?
It's all factions of the same shit. Okay, do you think they weren't doing abductions in the ages of slavery? Are you kidding me, lady? Did you just get here?
One video, I believe, called Biblically Accurate Angels.
Yeah, I like that video.
Okay, I'll link it, or I'll even display some of it here for people to watch. Now, does anything that you've learned about the phenomenon ring true with those depictions?
Yeah. I mean, when you look, okay, so if you look at angels even, you have to say.
Okay, so this whole thing, at a next level up of reality is what they call the spirit world, or the etheric world, or whatever. I don't know what it's called, but there's an eye in the middle of your head. It's the third eye. And when you open up your third eye, whether you do it through meditation and fasting and all that stuff to open it up, or you artificially open it up by taking DMT or ayahuasca or any of these other MAOI-laden inhibitors, you'll see beings like this. And some of them are, and these are actual real beings, as much as I hate to say that, they actually exist, but they can't interact with us directly. It has to be suggestions. And most of the ones you're going to meet on the earth plane, because of what's been happening, are going to be these negative ones. Every once in a while, if you're elevated, if your heart chakra, if you have love for life and everybody around and can get through the freaking fear programming, you can see this stuff naturally. So, and you can get contact with these beings, which is what the LNL group did, because they're high-minded people. They made contact with other high-minded group, the Raw group, which from here or from this neighborhood. So they're karmically tied with us. And the interactions are odd and strange and don't make a lot of sense. But these are the kinds of beings you will see. You will see beings like that. They look super detailed and really like super detailed. And they're very, very large. Like you could be really small. They could be super huge like that. And they have these different faces on them. Like there's one a lion or a person and a bull here, and they'll have they'll spin around just like you think that the mythological symbols look like, and mythological creatures. And I don't know if it's these creatures are mimicking what we think they're supposed to look like, or they've always looked like this, or this is the way our group has portrayed them. So they have ways of changing their shapes, but they actually do seem to have individual identities, or like some of them do, most of them do. And they exist on this other plane of existence. And so this Orion group, are also in league with negative versions of these things. So they call them, in the Law of One, they call them fifth density wizards or warlocks. And they spend a lot of time by themselves. They don't like to contact anybody, unless it benefits them somehow. So especially the negative. So the negative ones are more interjecting, and the positive ones are step back and wait for you to really show that you're can take the information, which LNL group, obviously one of the dudes could not take the information, and I'm not going to tell you what happened to him, but you can find out.
Ring true with those depictions?
Yeah. I mean, when you look, okay, so if you look at angels even, you have to say that even if you take this category of thing called angels, which we all think we know what they are, but if you go back to the biblical text where they derive from, you'll see that none of those encounters look the same.
Yeah, and that's because during the DMT, you get to temporarily turn off the MAO inhibitor binder thing that lets your third eye open up, so you can see these things. And yeah, they all look different. They all look different, and they change shape. Like almost like they can either stay the same shape or they can change shape. It's very odd. It's strange, but seems to be what they're about.
So even angels don't even look the same to one another. So you have angels that take on they look like humans and they fight with like Jacob and they dislocate his hip and things like that. And then you have these angels that look very weird, and scary. And then you look at Saint Francis, and his situation with and it looks like an angel. They call it a seraphim, right? And it zaps him and he gets these things which the Catholic Church calls stigmata, but they look like burns, right? And yeah. So I mean, once you start to get to the primary source materials of these things, they look very strange. And
yeah, so that's similar to what I've seen on these ayahuasca journeys I've been on, or whatever you want to call them. I still don't understand fully what they are. But yeah, you see all kinds of creatures. They interact with the shaman. They interact with people around you. And some people can see them. Some people can't. I was never scared. I was really fascinated by these things. Some people get really weirded out and freaked out by them. I just thought they were extremely beautiful and like very interesting looking, and not afraid at all. I really liked the way the demonic ones looked, but they just didn't stick around me because I actually really appreciated them because I'm into snakes and creepy crawler things anyway, and I thought they just looked so awesome and beautiful. And what I now understood is they were trying to scare me because they were scaring everybody and they were just feeding off people's scared energy, and like they're trying to scare me. Like I wasn't scared. I was like, no, this thing is cool as fuck. And he would like every time I try and get up close, he would run off. So anyway, that was annoying.
they don't look at all like what we have, what has come down to us as what they're supposed to be like.
Yeah, they're not the huggies
No,
babies
they're not.
on a
No.
cloud with a supple behind. And
Well, some are. Some people see those. You better believe it. They will appear to you how you kind of want them to appear. Some of them will. That's part of the better ones' natures. The evil ones, of course, will like, man, you're a dick. You're fucking, oh yeah, you're stupid. Whatever they do, they'll try you like, they'll try all the different hooks. It's fun to see them try and hook in. It's hook in all the way, like to see what your weaknesses are. They'll go down a list.
smiling
No.
creepily at you.
And when you don't fall for them, you're like, if you're like enamored with, like, oh shit, you guys are freaking, what are you? And they go, you're just not supposed to do that.
Even the people that had those experiences back in the day never said that either. Like Saint Teresa of Avila, she's a person who had an experience, and now it's made popular in Rome. Bernini created a statue called the Ecstasy of Saint Teresa, and it's in Rome, and you can see it. And it's this beautiful statue of Saint Teresa in ecstasy. It looks like with this little cherub like angel next to her. But if you actually read it, if you read the account of it, which she wrote, she basically says, I don't know what thing this is. I don't know if it's an angel. And then she said, all I know is that usually I see angels in my mind as an imagination, and this one is real. It's actually fleshy, and it's about 3 feet tall, and it's all in light. And it also has this long thing that has a dart at the end, like kind of like an arrow, and it like basically sticks her with this arrow. I mean, that's creepy. And
so yeah, there's definitely creatures that will do that on the spirit realm. They'll do stuff like that. I saw this hummingbird thing come up, and like this the shaman, his like head behind his head, there was like this flower thing that actually was his head, and his hummingbird came up and just like started inserting its beak into the guy's head. It was like, what is this? And I did the whole thing where you're like, is this a hallucination or what? I look down, I look away, I wait for it to reset. There's still colors and things shifting around, but I look back up and it's still there. Still doing the same stuff in the same place. I'm like, okay, well, that's obviously something's over there, and I'm not seeing it with my eyes, but I'm seeing it with this eye. So it's like this overlay. Hard to describe, but that's it. There's a spirit world that exists. They try to influence us all the time. Most people completely ignore it, and we're in the fear, and they can't even hear it, which is, I think, part of the agenda as well.
That's exactly what she said about it. And then you have this beautiful statue that doesn't look anything like the very strange, scary narrative.
So what was Carl Jung's opinions on UFOs? I know he had a whole book on UFOs.
Did, yeah.
Okay, I'm not going to stop there. I'm going to bring up now this here, Robert SEPEHR. Is there a Galactic Federation? So this is going to be like a little intro to this group and who's in cahoots with who. And yeah, we'll keep going with this.
And that's the structure that you see located to the right of.
This is, he's talking about the Galactic Federation, and he was like trying to make a comparison with NASA. the Nazi scientists, Star Trek, and a lot of the movies that we've come through and seen as soft disclosure, preparing people for this reality. I think the positives are allowing this to happen. The negatives are like, we can make money off this, but the positives do get to put their information out, and this is part of it. And also, the negatives have to tell everybody what's going on and kind of what's coming down the pike as part of their religion as well. Allows them to do more dangerous, more crimes against humanity to us legally.
Of the screen. Does it look familiar to you at all? If you're a fan of the Star Trek series, this is the location where they filmed the scenes with the Starfleet Academy on Earth, also referred to as the Space Academy, used for the education and training of individuals for service in Starfleet. The Academy motto was Ex Astris Scientia, in Latin meaning knowledge.
Another Latin. You know, they use anything, but they use Latin. Okay.
Comes from the stars. The Space Academy was said to be founded in the year 2161, or established in some form before the founding of the Federation, or the United Federation of Planets, the name for the fictional interstellar government that sent Captain Kirk, Mr. Spock, and the crew of the Starship Enterprise on its mission of peaceful exploration.
All right, so this is where I'm getting this is soft disclosure. There are other things that are indicating that this is soft disclosures, like, hey, humans, you're not the only ones. And you're going to have to deal with this thing that's taken over your society. So, just by the way.
Commonly referred to as the Federation, it was introduced in the television show Star Trek and represented an interstellar union of planetary governments that agreed to exist semi-autonomously under a single central government based on the principles of universal liberty, rights, and equality, and to share their knowledge and resources in peaceful cooperation, scientific development, space exploration, and mutual defense. The total number of formal member worlds was over 150 in the 24th century, and at its height, it numbered 350 members and encompassed 8,000 light years of space.
Yeah, so that's part of the thing. So in the Law of One, he talks about 50 some odd planets that are in this local positive confederation. Now the Orion group confederation, we don't know how big it is. It could be a lot bigger. We don't know, or it could be smaller. It's not clear. It's not clear how big they are. But they definitely are dominant in this sector, and they do believe that they have control and ownership, and they kind of do.
Unlike its imperial rivals, who derive power from a single species subjugating other races, the Federation's various member worlds joined willingly and were equals in the Federation's democratic society. While Star Trek was a fictional series, there are those that believe it was based on reality, as there have been recent disclosures, especially regarding the events surrounding World War II, which imply that humanity has a parallel, yet secret space program, which was based on technology innovations achieved by nationalist Germany before, during, and after World War II, which has been effectively hidden from the general public for the past 75 years.
If this is the first you've heard of it, this is real. This is actually what's going on. That's why I dunk on the moon landing stuff, because this is all going on. Way before we even considered going on the moon, they already landed on the moon and Mars, and they got bases, colonies. Yeah. That's where a lot of these kids that get abducted, and then 1 million missing a year by the FBI statistics. This is where they're going.
The most common question I get is that if the Germans indeed had advanced technology, such as anti-gravity and flying saucers, then why did they lose the war? If the Germans had the ability to reach the moon and possibly establish a lunar base, then why didn't they use their UFOs to defeat the Allies? And that's a good question. And let me answer it like this.
So there actually is a building on the moon that's like this. That is part of the disclosures. It's pretty funny that they make it like a swastika. I swear, Nazis are they're corny.
Even though Floyd Money Mayweather is recognized as the best...
Okay, so his point here is that, yes, technically, the Nazis were kick-ass and could have done a lot of damage, but not against the manufacturing might of the United States. There's no way it's going to win. So I think what happened was they came to a stalemate, and I also got a defensible position down in Antarctica, which is going to go into, and then just made a deal which says, look, just leave us alone. Let us do his thing, and you'll be involved with this thing too. So don't worry. We'll bring you along. Just you can be in charge of this stuff. We'll be in charge of the outside world. It's the space, all the space that's not here. How about you guys manage here and we manage the space with the Orion group of reptiles? Okay.
Pound for pound boxer in the world with an undefeated record of 50 wins and 0 losses. A man of athletic talent, technical skill, and recognized as the best defensive boxer to ever step in the ring. But if Money Mayweather were to agree to fight against yours truly, and I had 20 other clones of me, that means 20 of me against one Mayweather at the same time, we would beat Mayweather in the first round. Mayweather is 5'8" and 150 pounds. I'm 6'4", about 230 pounds, and if there were 20 of me simultaneously punching him at the same time, that means 40 fists. His superior skills, talent, and boxing ability will not save him. And likewise, Germany absolutely had superior scientists, technology, and equipment. But
Oh, easily. Yeah, the stuff that's just coming out now about all this stuff. Oh, yeah. They kicked ass, man.
they could not compete against the manufacturing capabilities of the United States.
Correct. Correct. You cannot compete against the manufacturing ability. A little country like this cannot take over a country this big with their manufacturing base fully on turned up on notch. They just no.
And having a few anti-gravity prototypes could not stop thousands more planes carpet bombing your supply lines, thousands of more tanks, and at least 10 to 1, if not 20 to 1, of all military supplies, including more soldiers. That said, the Germans knew the writing was on the wall halfway through the war, and while they were retaining hope until the end that they would find a way to develop their technology.
4,000 of these bad boys. Still while being bombed to shit. That is impressive to launch that much stuff under that much duress. So they had a bunch of trains like they were pumping this stuff out from underground bunkers while the war was going on. They were just launching rocket.
Enough to turn the war around. They did not want to expose their technology to the enemy and move their most advanced developments to their Antarctic base, where after surrendering the German mainland in 1945, they defeated the Allies in 1946, who invaded Antarctica with 3 aircraft carriers, 4,500 troops, in what is still publicly called.
Yeah, that was the stalemate that they're saying, like, look, we have the tech to take you guys out. Stop fucking with us. We'll do the trade thing, whatever. You guys give us stuff, we'll give you stuff, whatever. Quit trying to destroy us. You've backed us in a corner. We got friends. No, stop. We'll trade with you. That's what it basically what happened.
Called a scientific expedition, codenamed Operation High Jump.
I thought it was him playing the ukulele.
Of course, the following year, after the Allies suffered a humiliating defeat in Antarctica, the world became aware of the Roswell incident, where a UFO, or flying saucer, crashed into the Nevada desert, and within a few weeks, the CIA was set up, and the media informed the nation it was a weather balloon.
A psyop number 1.
While conspiracy theorists insisted it was little green or gray men, anything but tall Aryan men with German accents. From then on, UFO sightings continued, as well as a new phenomenon.
Yeah, it was most likely tall Aryan men with German accents, not little green men that didn't speak and were almost dead and all of them didn't exist. It's just weather balloon. Okay.
In the early 50s, known as contactees, or people that claim to not only see round saucer-shaped craft, but interacted with people that claim to be from Venus or Mars with striking features and often long blonde hair. There's the Billy Meyer case, a photographer from Switzerland that claimed to have contact with several beautiful aliens that started in the early 50s.
And I think his contacts were real, but it was probably this German group.
While most people discount his photographs to be a hoax, the craft were round and disc-shaped, and the occupants looked Germanic. Then there's the George Adamski case, a Polish-born American citizen who also claimed to have photographed spaceships from other planets and says he met with friendly Nordic alien space brothers who also look like typical Germans.
Yeah, there we go. More of it, just like, come on.
While Adamski was also denounced in the media as a fraud.
Yeah, I think he did fake some stuff, but I'm sure he also had contact.
His photographs and video also resembled the round Vril craft that leaked documents from the KGB after the fall of the Soviet Union showed to not only have a similar shape, but the same 3 round gravitational stabilizers below the craft. It's the same shaped UFO that was spotted hovering around gravitational.
If you look at you look right here, this shape comes down.
Stabilizer
kind of is in line
below
with how these craft work. I don't know if this is fake or he made it simulate it, but they do work like that.
The craft. It's the same shaped UFO that was spotted hovering over Los Angeles in 1945.
You can see it in here. These dots right here are anti-aircraft shells exploding nearby. They put, was it 4,000 shells, 5,000 shells? 3 people died from the shelling, the constant shelling at this thing, which was completely impervious.
For several hours, and the famous incident the newspapers called the Battle over Los Angeles, where not only thousands of people witnessed the craft hovering in the air, but thousands of rounds of ammunition were shot at it, seemingly having no effect. Keep in mind, this was during World War II.
Yeah, you can kind of see it there.
And while the craft did not appear to be armed, it might have been to show off the technology in an effort to bring an end to the war. Probably the most famous contactee case was the one involving Betty and Barney Hill, an American couple who claimed they were abducted in a rural portion of the state of New Hampshire, where, under hypnosis, Barney Hill not only described the alleged extraterrestrials as looking like an Irishman, but he used the word Nazi, saying that the occupants of the craft were Nazis.
Now, so yeah, he was one of the. This is one of the first abduction stories, and this is what they talked about. It's like at the time, it was like, "What are you? That doesn't make any sense." But now it's kind of maybe making some sense.
You say there? Did you say it was 1,000 feet away?
Oh no,
1,000 yards.
it doesn't look that far. It's very big, and it's not that far. And I can see it tilted toward me.
Tilted? What does it look like now when you say tilted? Did you see wings?
Looks like a big pancake with windows and rows of windows and lights of not light, just one huge light.
And rows of windows like a commercial plane?
Rows of windows. They're not like a commercial plane because they curve around to the size of this pancake. One person looks friendly. He's friendly looking, and he's looking at me over his right shoulder, and he's smiling.
Could you see him clearly?
Yes, I thought.
What's his face like? What does it make you think of?
It's round. I think of a red-haired Irishman. And
You saw him through this window, or you said there was a row of windows?
it was a row of windows, just a huge row of windows, and the evil face on the. He looks like a German Nazi.
You know, the first time I heard this, I was like, I'm not into UFOs or any of this stuff. I was like, this guy is crazy. Why did he bring up Nazis in this UFO stuff? I was like, this is a bunch of nonsense. I was like, when I first encountered it in the 90s or so, I was like, all this stuff is completely ridiculous. But there's layers.
He is not. Did he have on a uniform?
Yes.
What kind of uniform?
It was black.
Which brings us to the Washington, D.C. incident, where on July 12th,
This is actual video of the flying saucers that invaded
1950,
Washington, D.C. in 1952. That was in all the papers. Most people have no idea this actually happened. This is such a crazy story.
a highly publicized sighting took place in the Capitol above the White House as a dozen saucer craft casually flew in the sky in another apparent demonstration of technology or a show of force or technological superiority, which some claim convinced then-President Eisenhower to secretly meet with aliens or Aryans, depending on who you ask. I don't doubt for a minute that the vast majority of people listening to this will have already made up their mind that there's no way that the US government met with anyone, be it aliens or Germans, because the vast majority of people also let the mainstream media do the thinking for them. And the media, up until now, has not yet acknowledged the existence of UFOs.
Oh, but they did. This is 2 years ago. This was it. 3 years ago. We've had a lot of stuff since then, right? Oh, I lost the space, damn it.
The mainstream media does. That is, up until now.
So this is from the former head of Israel's space program, Chaim Shed, who says that aliens have been in contact with the U.S. and with Israel. What does he refer to? The Galactic Federation, that he says has been in touch with Israel and the U.S. He also says that Donald Trump was going to reveal their existence, but then basically got talked out of it, I suppose.
Yeah, and look, he's 87 years old. According to him, he says he has nothing to lose. He's a decorated former Israeli general, former space security chief. He's been awarded a medal 3 separate times, 2 secretly, for actions that kept Israel safe. Clearly somebody who was regarded well by that government. Now, what he's saying is kind of crazy. He says that the cooperation there's a secret pact between the U.S. government and the Galactic Federation, that the cooperation includes a secret underground base on Mars where there are American and alien representatives.
So this federation, this is not the Galactic Federation. This is the Orion Federation. Now there's all kinds of federations. The ones that are positive are confederate. That means they all have a group. They all agree to this group rules, but there's no one central leader. And the Galactic Federation that the U.S. government deals with, which the Confederates said, don't make deals with these people. You will regret it. They are double dealers, and you will probably end up enslaved by these creatures. And the U.S. government said, no, we want the stuff. We want the magic ray that gives us the unlimited power. We want the Ring of Power. That's what they wanted. So they said, no, we're going to make deals with these guys. So that's the Galactic Federation of Orion, which was been here all the whole time. They've managing this group. So there is this, they have this kind of idea that because they've been here for so long, the Earth is theirs and they are the ones that rule it and run it and own it. And there is something to be said about that. And for third density, humans need to be managed by somebody, and the reptilians said that we're going to manage it for you. So, but now we're entering the fourth density. We're at fourth density. Well, Earth has already entered fourth density, but humans individually are given the choice to enter the fourth density or not, and that's opening the heart chakra to surface to all, seeing everyone as yourself and consider other people when you do stuff. But unfortunately, there's not that many people right now that believe that. So the harvest when this event happens is pretty low right now. So anyway, let's keep going.
Last week, a high-ranking and distinguished former Israeli space security chief not only claimed that extraterrestrials exist, and President Trump knows about it, but that a galactic federation also exists and is waiting to make official contact. Allegedly, contact has already been established long ago with governments of the world, since he claims that the United States already has military personnel in underground bases on Mars.
Well, this is quite a story.
Yeah, of course. So some of the stuff that came out a couple of years, some of the secret space program disclosure stuff, there was some stuff that was made up and some people wanted to grift on it. Some of the early stuff some of those people talked about was the real deal, and some of it's regurgitated stuff. It's like really hard to figure out what's going on. The Law of One, which came out in 1981, it hasn't changed. It's the same thing, documented every time. I'm adhering to that and letting that kind of that reality explain a lot of what we're seeing, and just knowing human base, like reptilian human behavior, and how what we see in our environment, and extrapolating it to this other group, which have monetized it. So.
And it comes from the man who headed Israel's space security program for nearly 30 years. Chaim Eshed is making the extraordinary claim that the United States and Israel have been in contact with a group of aliens for years. Not immigrants, but extraterrestrials. He has called them the Galactic Federation of Aliens, and he says President Trump is aware of the existence of these aliens and had been on the verge of revealing their secrets, he claims, but was asked not to do so by the Federation in order to prevent what he calls mass hysteria. Well,
No. Well, the mass hysteria would occur when this group lets them know why they're here. Then we might have some mass hysteria when nobody wants to you're totally enslaved. You're our food and our entertainment, and it's our hobby and lifestyle to raise you to basically feed us, and that's what it is. Yeah, then probably get some mass hysteria at that moment. Yeah.
SEPEHR General says the US and Israel have kept it from the public because, quotes, humanity isn't ready and the aliens don't want to reveal themselves until humanity can evolve, he says, and understand what space really is.
Okay. Or what they really are. And then we won't be their food anymore, and they'll have to go get another food supply. And they don't like doing that, so there you go.
Well, the good news is that he claims an agreement has been reached between the US government and the aliens, a contract to do experiments here. There's also, he says, a secret underground base on Mars where there are American and alien representatives.
Right, this Orion group. They're on all the planets. They're all over the place. They're playing with these Nazis guys in space. They're in cahoots with them. It's part of how they got the deals going, so...
Now, this former head of a branch of Israel's defense ministry is 87. He was very well respected. He says he's come forward now in the hope that his news will be accepted as true. He notes that if he'd made these claims 5 years ago, he would have been hospitalized, but now he says, I've got nothing to lose. Well, so far, President Trump has not tweeted about this, though remember a year ago, he did set up the Space Force as the fifth branch of the US Armed Forces.
Now, there was odd that he just kind of rolled that out. Why? Okay, what kind of threat do we need to have a new branch of... Usually branches of the military are created when there's a threat. I don't know if you knew that, but like... Before we had the Air Force, all we had was the Army and the Navy. And before we had the Navy, we just had armies, right? So every time there's a new threat, new technical vector, then we create a force. So is there a new threat somewhere? Just other people in space? Oh, they haven't been there for 50 years? Okay, why now?
Well, we did ask the White House, the Department of Defense, and Israeli officials to comment. So far, they have not responded to the NBC News request, and I wonder if they ever will.
The topic of a secret space program is not new and has been discussed for decades, though only recently being reported on in a serious way by the mainstream media. While the majority of the discussion about a potential galactic federation implies that all of the alleged aliens are a totally separate species from us, if they exist at all. But brave researchers from the time just before the internet era of social media have risked their lives disclosing what they believe had its roots.
I would definitely be friends with this guy. It'd be hard to be friends with this guy, but I would definitely. If I knew where he lived, I'd be hanging. Hey man, can we come hang out?
At least in part, involving events pertaining to World War II. One of these fearless researchers was named Vladimir Terzinsky, and while he has vanished for about 20 years now, I'd like to remind the world of his efforts, which have impacted many researchers in the field that continue to push for full disclosure, including myself.
So I did want to say, like, the launch timeframes do have astrological significance. I just want to bring this up because I forgot I didn't want to go into it. So when the Apollo 11 launched here, yeah, it's really interesting that all these signs are all lined up on one side. Now the landing, so here's they all lined up on one side, but the landing was all over the place. That's the landing is a few days later, 4 days later. It's all over the place. But the launch, peculiar, isn't it? So they do definitely set these up for certain times of the year in space. And there was a website, I used to see it all the time back in the early 2000s, 2003, 2005, that had all these launches, all these specific times and days, and they would show the astrological what stars were coming up on the horizon and where they were in relation to this event. Completely fascinating. I'm like, okay, there's more than going on here. Some of it's obviously, just putting too many things together, but some of it's like, okay, that's a little odd. Let's hear what Terzinsky has to say.
So Vladimir, welcome, and I'm very glad that you managed to make it.
Thank you very much for your invitation.
Now, Vladimir, I've looked at your credits and I'm terribly impressed. In fact, looking at what you've done in terms of education, I'm really surprised. Here you have a Bachelor of Science in Physics, you have a Master of Science in Electronics, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on. You have brought on to me an awful lot of information about about Nazi Germany and the technology that they had in the 40s. Now, I am absolutely astounded by the information that you have to share with us. You have brought on pictures. Could you please tell us about these pictures and what they actually are telling us?
This is cable access. I had a cable access show from 1999 to 2003 called Reality Expander. You can see still people have uploaded it. What I looked like back then, and I have some in my playlist as well. So, but this is where the real deal stuff came out. People, you couldn't find this other place anywhere else. There was no place else. There's nobody on TV. This is like the original YouTube. This is original like old school YouTube, and you could say anything you wanted, and nobody could stop you. But okay, here we go.
Well, in one sentence, while researching UFOs in general and the terrestrial component of the alien presence in particular, namely secret terrestrial programs that have been dealing with anti-gravity and secret space programs for the last almost 100 years, I realized that...
Yeah, so this is like 1990, 100 years. Yeah, that's about right. The 1890s, when we first started seeing these anti-gravity craft around. Even maybe even before that, it wasn't this lighter than aircraft. It wasn't balloons. It was actually anti-gravity craft, 1860s, 1870s, in Germany, around Germany. Something was going on there.
A lot of these secret projects are covered up behind the alien smokescreen, and later on laundered to the general public as an alien technology gift to us. And in order to pull the carpet from under the feet of the government, or let's call it the party line American ufology, I've been doing research on Nazi UFOs, on the 50 or more basically different models of craft that the Germans built before and during the Second
50 anti-gravity machines that the Nazis were already dead running back in the 30s, 20s.
World War, powered by every engine that was in production in Germany at the time, by piston engines, Wankel engines, turbojet engines, ramjet, pulse jets, rocket engines, and the final and most advanced models were powered by electromagneto-gravitic drives. These are the most, basically no moving part drives. But in order to convince someone that this massive...
So a lot of this technology that this guy was talking about in the 90s, completely unheard of then. And since then, every single one of these things he's talking about, there's been some sort of scientific disclosure about its effect, how it works, that people have been working on it. And then a lot of this stuff has been completely expunged from the internet. Like, you can't find these articles anymore about these anti-gravity findings that these people have had.
Massive research and development conspiracy, let's call it. And this secret space program run by the Germans has been on for all these years. Actually, the persistent rumors are that the Germans landed on the moon and Mars before the war ended. And later they were followed by many other secret programs, but we will talk about that probably in a future show. The Russians and the Americans landed on the moon and Mars in the late 40s and early 50s respectively. An Italian team landed on Mars in 56. Many superpowers have been actively pursuing secret space programs based on anti-gravity propulsion.
Yeah, so we've been going to the moon and all these planets for a long time. With the technology that was transferred from this NASA group that got it from the ET group through psychic means, which is as fifth density beings. They make contact with those beings and they let them know.
But in order to convince someone of the existence of this massive research and development conspiracy, one first has to be convinced of the existence of political and economic conspiracies in this world.
You talk about Germany.
Political and economic conspiracies, exactly. So these things are all related. So when this guy brought this up at the time, back in the 90s, nobody even knew what he was talking about. A lot of the stuff that we take for granted, like how the Federal Reserve works and how there's a shadow government and how there's a managerial class that's masquerading as U.S. government, but it's actually not that at all. It's something else completely entirely. The compartmentalization, the running the fake money system that's run by we don't even know who runs it, and all that stuff. Nobody even knew that stuff back then. But he's like going off. So if you haven't looked into what he's talking about, he sounds like a complete kook. And when I first heard him, I totally dismissed this guy. But since I've seen more things and been able to be in the world and see these disclosures pop up slowly and have his work, and this is what this guy was talking about, completely confirmed, then it's like, okay, maybe this is probably more Occam's razor level. This is what's going on.
Already, does this actually mention that Germany, before the Second World War, being involved in very, very advanced technology?
Yes, actually, these books mention a lot of extremely bizarre, almost science fiction military technologies. And the first book that mentions particularly the first several models of flying saucers that were built in Germany is the book Intercept UFO, or Intercept But Don't Shoot by Renato Vesco.
Now, Renato Vesco, was he part of the Mussolini government?
Renato Vesco was actually a very leading figure in the Italian research and development effort. He was the research and development boss of the Italian Air Force. He may not have been a Werner von Braun, but he definitely was an extremely brilliant scientist and engineer. And besides that, Italians and Japanese were regularly briefed on all secret German developments during the war. So after the war, when he wrote the book, he knew exactly what he was writing about. Actually, he wrote and discussed in great detail the first several models of flying saucers that were built in Germany. This is the turbojet-powered flying saucer built by Schriever, diameter of about 30 feet. And the joint project, this was the first operation.
Looks like that, it's just a flat pancake, but they've got the people in the middle, and the edges aren't not that. This also looks like some other craft that some other what's that, Serrato guy?
Diameter of about 30 feet. And the joint project, this was the first operational interceptor fighter saucer that was built by Belonzo, Mite, and Schriever. I have some photographs that were extremely...
So here's that book, Intercept But Don't Shoot, True Storing of Flying Saucers. This information has been around forever, but most people, they want to.
Extremely rare to find. Many of these were pulled out of German libraries by our research associates and friends. Most of them are impossible to find in the United States.
But they think it's all fake. So.
The third model that we talked about is a very interesting photograph done in 1952 over Mount Rainier in Washington State. And in my opinion, this is a flying Kugelblitz, or ball lightning, automatic anti-aircraft weapons platform that was captured by the Americans and test flown secretly from bases in the western United States and northwestern Canada. Later on, through German sources, we have discovered not only...
So it's just saying there's been captured... The second one has been captured and repurposed a long time ago.
Turbojet-powered craft, but these are rocket-powered craft with rocket engines of the V2 type. And the subsequent model of Mite, these two craft had an exoatmospheric capability, and they could easily go in orbit around the Earth. This is a very interesting drawing of a saucer-type dreadnought, a 60-yard diameter, this is about 200 feet diameter, interplanetary craft that has huge sleeping compartments. It is basically 10 stories tall.
So I just want to make you aware that these two books, one from Dr. Michael Sala talking about the different disclosures on the U.S. Navy's secret space program with Nordic Extraterrestrial Alliance, which is this group of ETs. It's not clear. There's a group of so there's not Nazi group. Okay, so they're all involved with the Americans. And this one is by another guy, William Tompkins. He just died recently. And he goes into how he describes craft that were basically huge converted submarines that were the early versions of craft that eventually turned into things like this for doing interstellar travel, not intergalactic, but interstellar for sure.
Drawings were published in Germany by a little secret society there.
What would have been the purpose of that Schreiber flying disc here?
It had definitely an interplanetary objective, because a flying saucer that can circle the Earth in 1.5 hours does not need sleeping compartments. You don't have to sleep between during your flight. Basically, the longest distance you can travel around the planet is 1-2 hours at the most.
Right.
So obviously sleeping compartments on such a massive scale would be needed only for a craft that would land on the moon, that would stay there for a long time and come back.
So you're actually saying that the Germans pre-World War II were refining the technology in order to actually travel to a different planet.
Exactly. These two models are capable of going in orbit around the Earth and probably going in an extended elliptical orbit toward the moon.
Yeah, it seems like they've been traveling to other planets since at least the 30s. Maybe, definitely by the 1940s, they were going to other planets outside the solar system. So
This huge craft is capable of getting into orbit around the moon and landing on the planet. And these were actually the most primitive of the models that the Germans built. 2 months ago, I received, through some private channels, a secret documentary film made by the German secret society, the Thule Gesellschaft.
Yeah, so the Thule group is this ancient group, which I'll go into a little bit more with more Robert SEPEHR stuff. That he just put the information together that I've been following along for years. Bits and pieces of it coming along. Yeah, this Thule group, this secret society group, they're the ones into the ritual magic, which, my studies into the mystical arts and stuff, they're doing things to commune and communicate with certain fifth density wizards, warlocks, whatever you want to call them, who will then bestow this information, knowledge, in exchange for tribute.
Something like an equivalent of the...
And that's what these secret societies, they were able to make contact. It's not that difficult, but you do have to know what you're doing, and otherwise you're just going to end up with some crackhead somewhere, some crackhead spirit that's not going to help you and just trick you.
Illuminati society here. The title of this documentary, 2-hour documentary film, is UFOs, the Third Reich Strikes Back. This is the emblem of this secret society. They were basically the ideologues of the Third Reich. But once these things invented, they were shared later by the superpowers. They cannot be disinvented, to use Daniel Bell's interesting
One thought keeps coming back to me.
So there's been a lot of this technology transfer that happened. And some compartments knew about it, and some other ones didn't. So the Admiral Byrd thing, it may have been that group that sent that mission off, that believed in that. They didn't fully know that these backdoor deals were already being made or something, or they wanted a cover story to. I'm not sure. It seems like that was a huge mistake because the Nazis were ready for him.
And that is almost world supremacy. I'm looking at this and I'm going, what's the incentive? What's the reasoning behind trying to refine such technology?
Well, it gives man an ability to go to the moon, to explore the planets of the solar system, to go beyond the solar system. Some of these larger crafts were definitely able to go beyond the solar system, as we shall see very soon. The first row of photographs, actually this is a very small part, this is maybe a third of all the documentary photographs shown in the German documentary video. These are interceptor fighter craft of the Vril series that have never been written about in any other source in the world literature so far. They were about 30 feet in diameter and extremely maneuverable. Their speed was almost 3 times the speed of sound. For them, Allied bombers and fighters were basically sitting ducks. Renato Betko, in his book, depicts about 3 dozen attacks of flying saucers on Allied bomber formations with devastating consequences. And these all were attacks of the previous and more primitive craft. These craft were developed in the very last years of the war, 44, 45. This subsequent line here are the 25-meter diameter, which is about 75-meter diameter, 30 feet tall tank killers, the craft of the Honeybull type. We have never seen before UFOs with tank turrets attached underneath. Oh, yeah. We see different models of tank turrets. Actually, these are standard issue.
Now, some of this stuff may have been fake photos. They just did models and photos, but some of them were real. So it's really hard to tell the difference between one and the other. But it doesn't really matter. The stuff, they actually have this technology. It's real. They're flying it. Doesn't matter if there's photos of it or not. It's pretty obvious at this point.
Turrets for the German Panther tank and the Panzervier tank. Later models developed in the 60s from the German colony on the South Pole, which is another very controversial issue. Admiral Byrd led an expedition to the South Pole in 47, trying to wipe out the Germans, but he was beaten very badly. In just 2.5 weeks, he had to leave the continent because the Germans.
Yeah, they were going to be down there for months. In 2 weeks, they were like, we can't do it. We're wiped out, yo.
Had perfected all these craft. On the bottom row, we have the most interesting examples here. This is an original drawing of a cigar-shaped mothership of 330 feet length that was carrying inside itself one of the tank killer craft and 3 of the interceptor fighter saucers.
So how big was this cigar-shaped
It
craft?
was about 90 to 100 feet in diameter and 330, 350 feet length. This is a football field size craft. The most interesting...
Okay, so hold on. Let me see. Okay, so this is William Tompkins. This is one of his last interviews. He wrote the book this book, Selected by Aliens, and he sketched out a picture of what that thing looked like, and it was made up these little like cubes. It was just a big long tube. He also sketched out what did the encounter on the moon? It was basically these things. It was basically what he said were up there. And it also kind of look like these kind of ships. And he says that's what they look like. And that's what the Navy was building, basically using this same shipbuilding technology. But with the anti-grav, they can put it into space. So they basically just completely copied the submarine tech and they use the new energy systems and the space tech, just the same stuff. That's anti-grav. Okay, that's how they did it.
And this could be photographs of German crafts in flight well after the end of the World War, probably flown from their base on the South Pole.
In what year was that, approximately?
These photographs were taken 42, these are and 43, these are 44 and 45. These were taken after the war. The drawings date from 1943. The biggest craft that the Germans built was a 74-meter diameter, this is about 220 feet diameter, flying saucer of the Honeybull 3 type. This is a naval warfare craft with, we can see here, in these turrets, triple guns of a naval caliber, 3 turrets on the underbelly and a 4th turret on the top. This was a craft made for huge naval warfare. According to this film, the only craft was taken and flown from the Earth to Mars by a huge crew of basically volunteers and self-sacrificial crew of Germans and Japanese. And it landed on January 15, 1946, after 8 months of flight. They departed April 45, a month before the war ended in Germany. And they crash landed on Mars. The gravity field there is too weak, so the craft couldn't make it real nice in the landing. The most interesting things about this craft are that these are free energy devices. These are basically flying converters of gravitational energy that convert the energy of the geomagnetic field of Earth into the electromagnetic energy of flight. So these craft never had to tank.
Yeah, so it's not clear. I mean, that might be one way it does it with the gravitational field. It could be the quantum flux that's present at all points in space. It's not clear how these things are powered, but they're powered by something free because they're not carrying 100 trillion tons of petroleum.
They never had to replenish their reservoirs. They had actually tapped into the inexhaustible reservoir of free gravitational energy of the planet. This is something even more taboo as a topic than the fact that the Germans developed all these 50 different models of craft. Because if one is able to go basically for free to the moon and Mars without using a single gram of fuel, free riding on the gravitational currents of our solar system, then a lot of our present-day economy about, well, we all have to pay for the fuel when we tank our cars, becomes obsolete.
So let's discuss...
Yeah, I mean, that's really it. Without some sort of mechanism that they can meter the slaves, that it's obvious that we need this thing, then we are controlled and totally not we get out of control of our lives because we've got this thing that's using this artificial scarcity, which is favorite thing these reptiles love to do. Artificial scarcity, you got to get it from us. You can't possibly get it anywhere else.
This in much more depth. In your estimation, where is all this technology stored?
Well, Germans were not the first one to develop this technology. John Keely presented his anti-gravity flying bathtub, as if we may call it like this.
And John Keely's just one of them. Who knows if his stuff is real or not? He definitely got destroyed. It seems like these scientists who come out with a way to disrupt the current way things are done seem to get really crushed. So I'm pretty sure at this point they have some sort of satellite network detector to see if anyone has come up with this particular type of device, and they know the RF signature or something like that, and they can figure out who's figured it out, and they go pay him a little visit, give him a little tap on the shoulder, said, hey, by the way.
A funny-looking contraption. He sat on it, rose noiselessly, accelerated to a very fast speed, and came back and landed in front of the stunned eyes of the War Ministry here in the United States in the 1860s. They said, well, we can't find any possible use of this device.
Where was Nazi Germany? I mean, when did Nazi Germany actually come into play?
There are persistent rumors that the Germans were contacted by one extraterrestrial race, as have been all governments of all superpowers all throughout the terrestrial history. But that particular race was the cause of this tremendous explosion, this cornucopia of German killing machines and advanced...
That's the Orion group. There's one of the many out there. They just happen to be controlling this sector at this time. They're ready for people to call. They've set the whole thing up for people to call. They've been involved the whole time. That's why they think they own us. They think they have ownership over us. That's kind of a reptilian thing to do. And I mean, in certain ways, we kind of are them. We are a big part of us. Our DNA and structure is them. So I don't know. We do make good pets.
Weapons technologies that had absolutely no precursor whatsoever in previous terrestrial developments. So basically from the 20s and 30s, Germany was actively pursuing research in rocket propulsion, in anti-gravity propulsion, in free energy devices that were later combined with their flying saucers to make these formidable weapons. Later on, this technology was used by the secret powers, by Russians, by the superpowers, namely the Russians, the British, the Americans, the French. Even the rumors are that the Israelis and the Brazilians have their own anti-gravity craft in operation these days.
I have a question that's burning me. That question is, why didn't the Germans, at the time when they were actually losing the war, why did they not actually throw all the technology that they had, such as this, and just as much as possible obliterate the enemy?
Oh, well, actually, we are getting here very deep into the political and banking conspiracies behind these wars. A war is not meant to obliterate the enemy. A war.
Right. And then when this guy was saying this back in the 90s, he was a complete kook for just mentioning this. What do you mean the wars aren't real? What do you mean these bankers start wars? Who owns these banks? Who are these bankers? You don't know. And you're never gonna know. Shut the fuck up and get in line. Pick up a gun and go fight for who we tell you to. Or you're gonna get it, buddy. That's just the group.
A war is meant to load the credit card of the government. This is behind these wars. A war is not meant to obliterate the enemy. A war is meant to load the credit card of the government by forcing it to buy more armaments. If you obliterate the enemy, there wouldn't be any future enemy for the future war that is coming. So,
and then if there's no enemy, there's no need for government. There's no need for government. There's no need for taxes. Without taxes, you can't have a slave race. So they gotta have war, man.
So basically, all these wars have been orchestrated and choreographed by the same world banking elite that has been funding both sides in the conflict.
But in what way would that benefit Nazi Germany?
Well, actually, from the mid-30s, the Germans were actively involved in their South Polar research. From the late 30s, they started building their underground bases on the South Pole.
They're also financed by these groups. You don't think the elite have their elite? That they can have them go do stuff? No? Okay.
And by 45, they have moved, according to some rumors, from a few 100,000 to up to 1 million of slave labor and Nazi scientists and SS officers down there in this huge underground colony that later on engaged in space exploration and genetic research. According to persistent rumors, basically all the genetic research going on in the underground labs these days.
And all that stuff's coming out now. And back then, they just said, this guy's completely insane. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He has no idea. But now it's all coming out. All the genetic shit. Oh, what are these pyramids down here at the South Pole? What are all these underground? What is all this stuff?
In the United States has been introduced, has been started in Nazi Germany. I know a very good movie producer who was working on one UFO documentary, and he saw in a military base here in the United States a documentary film, 30-minute film about genetic research on humans, crossbreedings between humans and animals in Nazi Germany 50 years ago in the concentration camps. So the South Polar colony.
Yeah, so all that's all been disclosed. The U.S. government been shown all these places doing hybrid genetic engineering with humans. But it's good though now, right? It's good.
Primarily it goes in space exploration and genetic research. So basically the Germans were saving all these devices for the defense of the South Polar colony, which Admiral Byrd learned unexpectedly that they had made an impenetrable fortress there.
So why did we not find out about what happened to Admiral Byrd?
Well, there's an interesting interview in an Argentinian paper. He probably gave that on his way back from the South Pole before the security lid was clamped on him, where he said the next World War will be fought with an extremely powerful adversary that has the ability to fly from pole to pole. He was obviously talking about the German crab that obliterated his...
Yeah, there's no World War. It's just now they have no one that can... As long as the three-part stuff keeps going, which seems to be the way things are, they got it all set up that way. Three spheres of influence, no one can do more than any other one. That seems the way they handle it, and everyone can agree with. As long as we keep the slaves, can we just keep the slaves? We'll make it look like we're fighting each other, but so the slaves are confused. Can we just do that? That'll be good.
Aviation, all his planes were shot down in less than 3 weeks. He came down with 3 carrier fleets, with 3 formations of carriers and support craft and 4,000 troops, and was beaten in less than 3 weeks, and hastily retreated from.
After the Second World War, Nazi Germany, obviously, after its defeat, was there a tacit agreement that they could keep that technology and refine it further? I'm surprised that...
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we have to keep in mind that the Rothschilds and all the other European bankers have been financing for 300 years both sides in every conflict. And this is the best way for them to have the government load their credit cards and so then to live off these enormous interest.
Right, so if they're financing both sides, aren't they really in charge of both sides? Oh, okay.
Interest on these loans. During the Second World War, Nazi Germany was financed by basically the Wall Street and the American banking community. And
this was not well known back then. People didn't know that. I don't know if you know that, but now you do. You can look into it. It's definitely a fact.
European banking community, as was the Russian Bolshevik Revolution.
All the Russians, the Germans, they're all financed by the same group that finances all these wars. There's no real wars. It's just these people fucking with everybody. So it's sad. I know it sucks.
Saying that German bankers, namely some of the big families, were behind the revolution in Russia?
Well, the Russian Revolution was financed by Wall Street, by the Vatican, and by South African gold. It was financed, it was planned, financed, paid for, carried, and later on, Wall Street helped Russia in the first 20 years of the most difficult 20th, basically in the 20s and 30s, by propping up the Russian economy. So what happened to the German South Polar?
That's all. I know people don't know about this. That's real. You can look into it. If you really want to go down that rabbit hole, it's a very dry history. Tragedy and Hope, Carol Quigley. If you really want to know, so the thing about that book, Tragedy and Hope, you have to have at least 120 IQ and lots of free time. It's meant for a class of people that's not you. That's why it's so hard to read. It's very thick, obtuse language. It's very strange. Lots of things like things that you should... so assumed knowledge, it's very difficult to read.
I think that Admiral
he lets it all know what's going on there, and they're very proud of it. They're very proud of what they've achieved. All this space travel stuff, you guys no idea. And here's a slave race, and they have illegal with these demons who they're feeding. Crazy.
Probably concluded the first tacit agreement or condominium agreement between the Americans and the Germans, namely that let's not interfere into each other's affairs. Maybe even we would do some trading. We would be trading with crude materials, raw materials, bolts, nuts, metal profiles, raw materials, and you would be giving us some of your astonishing technology.
Yeah, after Byrd kicked their ass, and they're like, no. Okay, so well, okay, you kicked their ass. Okay, can we at least be friends? You can give us some of that sweet, impenetrable weaponry. Can you? Please?
This is according to Renato Vesco in his book Intercept But Don't Shoot, and according to the book of Genesis.
These are fictionalized.
The second, yes, but this is a documentary, highly engineering, highly specialized report on the German anti-gravity research and development. I have a lot of information about secret collusion between the United States and Russia, all behind the smoke screen of the Cold War.
For sure. There was no Cold War. Why were the Russians and Americans working together in space while fighting each other In the Cold War. Okay.
But Germany, what's Germany's involvement in the Cold War?
Official West Germany, very little. Basically, they were the strongest member of NATO. But the secret German colony on the South Pole was basically working hand in hand with the secret Soviet-American space program. It is rumored that when the Russians and Americans landed on a joint flight to the moon with a probably American-made saucer in the late 40s, not only that they discovered the German swastika flags already planted in the most famous craters on the moon, but they spent a few days as guests to the German ex-Nazi moon base.
Yeah.
Right. So the Nazis made league with the Orion group first. They get the technology first. They're also more like intellectually and heart-centered, negatively oriented. They're going negative path. Orion group is on negative path. They're doing service to self. Their Nazis are all about it. Highly structured, ritualized. The uniforms, rank, psychic abilities, torture. They love it. They're all into it. So that's the league. That's the group. The Nazis pushed themselves in that corner, and they're also guided by the secret societies who wanted the ultimate power, the seething power. Yeah, so they got involved with the same group that off-world, the Orion group. We want the seething power forever. We've got it. We've had a billion years, Lee. We've had a billion years of our empire. When who knows how long they've had? Maybe 10 million, maybe 5 million. But they've been conquered and infighting. It's Game of Thrones.
You have so much information. It's staggering.
So stupid. This stuff is so stupid. Can't we just get along and be cool with each other? No. That's a Confederate. That's the Confederation. That's the Raw group. They're like, can we all just get along? They're a little too hippie for me because it's like we got to deal with these assholes first. So until we get rid of the Ryan group first, we're fucked.
In fact, I'm absolutely overwhelmed by all the information that you've managed to share with us.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to take in. If you're not aware of it, it's a lot to take in. I'm gonna cover this one next. A Secret Service Family Closure Bill Society. Yes. And the Nordics, more Nordics than UFOs. Yep. And this is the one I'm gonna.
And wisdom, discernment, Vivek. Discussion. Just a moment. Unfortunately, for the social memory.
I'm gonna do this one next. I'm gonna cover how the secret space program and the law of one all correlate, and I'm gonna be covering this video here. S medical PhD, cosmology, Earth history. All right, that's enough for now. I guess I'm in an hour and a half. enough blabbering on. I'll leave links to all these videos in the diddly do down there. Yeah, I'll links to all that stuff. All right. Thanks for watching.